Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's with a great deal of pleasure and trepidation I'm standing up here, but we'll give it our best bet. My name's Dennis Holder. I'm a 2016 scholar, and my study subject is old man and older boats. As a 1963 model, I'm not sure whether I come into the old man or not, but we'll work on it. My study is sponsored by FRDC, the Fisheries Research and Development Corporation in Australia, which I'm extremely thankful for them to give me the opportunity to have a look. Also Nuffield Australia for the belief in my ability to be able to do something worthwhile for my particular community. And of course my wife and family who supported me in this, and that my wife was the one who got me in, so she had to put up with all the trouble. Yeah, just one there. Seafood is actually the biggest single protein group sold and traded in the world. Crab fishing. That's, well, we'll talk a bit about my family actually. I'm married to Karen, and I've got 3 children. Jenna's 27, Ryan's 22, and Sophie's 17. And they've supported me extensively through this process, and some of the computer skills to do this was done by my university age children. I first started fishing in 1986. I come from a fishing background, so my father was a fisherman, but at that stage when I left school to go fishing on the family fishing boat, which was 50 foot long, and 3 brothers and a father, it wasn't actually an option. We didn't all get on that well. So I done a motor mechanic apprenticeship at the local GMH dealer, which 5 years into that I decided that I was a fisherman, so I had to go fishing. And consequently, at that stage, the blue crab industry was starting up as a developmental fishery. Had a decent look at it. As it works out, it was Nuffield style, which I didn't know anything about then. You spoke to a lot of your colleagues, a lot of your friends, you networked a lot of ideas, and some good ideas come out of it, and that's where I got into crab fishing from. My first boat, it's a 17-foot fiberglass thing, which was extensively modified so I could work it by myself. That was the first boat that I got interested in. So like I said, the crab fishing started in 86 in an open boat. I moved to Adelaide, and fishing in the Gulf of St Vincent in 1989 was a real big step in the journey which we had no idea we were going on. That's ended up 1986 Gulf St Vincent. At that stage I moved there with a new wife, no children. It's involved a number and a variety of boats which have all extensively been modified to try and find the ultimate crab boat and fishing equipment. Purchase of 3 additional licences, 2 in Spencer's Gulf, 1 in Gulf St Vincent. Package of 245 tonne of crab quota, 7 employees, a boutique crab picking factory, which we've still got to finish. Nuffield interfered with that, and a unwavering commitment to the blue swimmer crab and fisheries management and industry. So in 2010, this was we built this one in Port Adelaide. It still is the state of art, the most modern fishing vessel in blue crab fishing vessel in Australia. We work up to 240 pots on it. Those pots were part of the development of it. We developed those pots. We reduced our bycatch by 92%, increased our efficiency per pot by double, and the ultimate result was the 4 licensed 245 tonne caught on the one vessel in about 340 days of the year. My study topic is electric drive, power storage and power generation on fishing vessels. Why? High maintenance, high cost of running modern diesel motors. The cost of running to keep them running clean and green was horrific, around about 50 cents an hour on injectors. Cost and availability of skilled trade people to do it, very low after the mining boom. And while the boat's extremely good, the retrofit of existing motors and new motors in there is not going to end up any different. So try the same thing again and get a different result is a definition of insanity. So this led me to research other options following following what we were doing was unsustainable in the long term. So how do we do it better? Started having a look around, and my eyes ran across electric propulsion, and there's some pretty sexy stuff out there which is modern. And this is just a sample of two electric motors. The one on the right is a pod where the electric motor's totally... Not there? Right, I've got it now. Long half of the screen. Yeah, so this is just a couple of electric drive options we've got available in the world. The one on your left, my left now, is a pod where the electric motor is totally encased, waterproof, with a propeller attached under the water. It's very good, expensive. The one on the right is a more traditional arrangement where that'll just bolt in place of an existing diesel motor and run your propeller that way. And that's an exact motor which was put into a concept boat in Europe, and we'll have a bit of a chat about that in a minute. Batteries. I believe that batteries are at the forefront of reducing emissions on commercial fishing vessels. The investment and growth by battery producers has amazingly quick, and in the last 3 years I've been looking, their power density has increased by 40%, the costs are reduced by 30%, and for our operation I believe lithium and lithium-ion variants are probably the best for us. General findings. Yeah, that was a real wake-up call on the global focus. The biggest finding I found out of the global focus was the negative opinion of commercial fishing. Everyone had an opinion, and none of it was good. We've had 2 talks on that already this morning, and totally agree that we stopped participating in the conversation 30 years ago. Without a conversation, there is no story. Efficiency gains of up to 70%. Yep. Improved battery storage, power generation as part of the puzzle, but we haven't done a huge amount on that at this stage. Then we'll move on to an example. This one here was fishing vessel Caroline. She is the very first electric-propelled commercial fishing boat which was built in Norway. I had the privilege of spending 6 hours with Trent as the owner of that. An amazing little craft that is. Within his operation, he's a cod mesh net fisherman, so he has about a 12-hour workday when he's working, an hour out, an hour in, and 10 hours on pulling mesh net. There's a 175 kilowatt hour battery pack in that, so he pulls all of his mesh nets on batteries only. The noise is non-existent. A massive benefit out of that was the lack of fatigue. Over his season, he fished 20% more days at sea because they weren't worn out. So he reduced his fuel burn by 50%. He reduced his maintenance costs by a huge amount. and he fished more days because he wasn't worn out. It was an amazing success story, that one was. The next vessel, unfortunately I didn't get to visit this one. We jumped around for a couple of weeks, and when I was available it was at sea, and when it was home I wasn't available. But this one was a totally purpose-built design boat from the keel up. It was built under the European Fishing Union Greening Fund, and a very short period of build. It was built in 13 months from design to in the water. What it achieved was amazing. The red motor we had up there earlier is the main motor in this boat. His old boat was similar size with a 1450 kilowatt Caterpillar in it that burnt between 30 and 40,000 litres of diesel for a week's fishing. Its trawl gear, whatever it run over on the bottom, about 80% of that got run over and smashed up. The corresponding damage to the fish within the trawl gear of that was quite substantial, so there was a lot of discards. With the new boat, the 400 kilowatt electric motor, so we went from 1450 to 400. We reduced our fuel burn to 6,000 to 7,000 litres a week, which is a massive saving. The change of the fishing equipment reduced the damage on the benethos, which is the little plants on the bottom of the ocean, by 92%. And the quality index of the fish improved through the roof, and he kept about 30 to 35% of what he caught. Instead of being discarded and being damaged and low value, it was kept and sold, so it was a far greater increase in revenue on the boat. Conclusions. Improved greening and credentials of a business. Yes, we can do it with electric boats. Fuel and maintenance costs can be reduced by up to 80%. Improved OH&S. A massive improvement in OH&S for the lack of noise and vibration. That was a totally unintended consequence of going down an electric drive. With all of that, we've got improved credibility, we've got greening, we've got reduced OH&S problems. We should be able to attract young participants because you can make a really good living out of fish. So it is no longer a concept to have an electric fishing vessel. It is possible, and it is cost effective and viable. To continue on like we are, this is my personal view, we'll end up like old mate on the beach here. Crappy old boat, which don't float anymore, and he's starved to death, so he's nothing but bones. So a little bit of a change here from the couple of talks this morning is, how did we make this place? I think they covered it beautifully. We forgot to talk. We forgot to have the conversations. With a void of information that was filled by the extreme groups which put incorrect information out there. So we lost touch with our consumers. What am I doing about it? What's Nuffield doing about it? Well, fortunately, since I've started on this, I've made a conclusion that we have been too quiet. We've lost the story. So I'm pretty passionate about fishing, and fortunately I've had the opportunity to step up to the presidency of our peak industry group in South Australia. So now in an advocacy role, and like Catherine Winchester was saying, there's a brand new Seafood Industry Australia body which has just been developed. We were formalised in June, and I was extremely fortunate to get a board position on that. So what Nuffield's done is moved me in a position where we can make a difference. So that's that. The next role, the next generation electric boat. What we're doing in South Australia, me particularly and my wife and a cohort of colleagues, we've commissioned a concept design and a proving of concept and etc. on an electric boat. We're building a shed currently in Largs North Marine Precincts to actually build the thing in. And so the timeline on this is by July 19 we should have the very first electric fishing vessel in the water in Australia. So to give you a quick overrun on this, how are we doing for time? A quick overrun on it, it's with all the information that I found out and spoke to people in Norway and around the world, is we have to get the most slipperiest hull and efficient hull to push to get the best out of electricity. So we've come down to a catamaran design. This one's proposed to be 30 metres long by 10 metres wide. The hull width's 2.5 metres by 1.7 metres of draft. We'll put approximately 200 kilowatts of electricity propulsion, one on each side. We'll have approximately 300 kilowatt hours of battery packs, one on each side. That should give the boat a service speed of around the 18 knots, which is in the metric, or the landlubbers, that's around 38 kilometres an hour. It will have the ability to do our full work day of around that 8 or 9 hours on the pots, totally on batteries. And traversing in and out, we will have a generator or a turbine or something to generate the required power to make it travel along at 40 kilometres an hour. In amongst this, we'll all the latest technology of digital switching and everything else, we'll use that in it. The expectation is currently we use about 250,000 litres of diesel a year on my current fishing vessel, the Silver Spectre. We should get this one down to about 60,000. Maintenance cost on the Silver Spectre, that runs out at about $7 an hour by the time you repair injectors, replace oils and all of that. And we've done, what have we done, 24,000 hours in that boat in 7 years, so that's a substantial amount of money. That maintenance cost should be reduced by about 80 or 90% on a new one. Hopefully we can maintain that through the life of it. We seem to think we'll get a lifespan of this one of probably 10 to 15 years, and then we'll have to refurbish battery packs. The lifespan of the electric motors, well, the big red one, asked the manufacturer of that, how long will it last? And he said, I don't know. He said, but we've put a 30,000 strip and inspection on it. So he said at 30,000 hours of operation, which in our industry is 10 years, we'll pull the bearings out, have a look at them, and quite possibly reinspect them, reinstall them. So yeah, it's quite amazing where it can go, and we're going to do it in Adelaide. We'll have a darn good shot at it. So on the end of that, it's been made totally and utterly possible by Nuffield Australia and the support we've had through the group. It's been support from the wife, and thank you very much. It's